Captain Daniel Reeves sat in the command chair of the human starship Horizon, feeling the familiar vibration of the engines as they drifted through deep space. He had faced many missions, many risks, and many impossible orders in his career. But nothing prepared him for the message that had just come in. A distress signal, not from Earth or any human colony, but from the alien world Valthara, one of the greatest empires in the Orion Arm. Their message was brief and desperate. They were under attack. Their defenses were falling. The enemy fleet was stronger than anything they had seen in decades. They had no time to fight, only time to beg. Any vessel hearing this, may God or their gods protect them. Daniel did not hesitate. There was no discussion, no vote. He simply gave the order to change course and go to maximum speed. He believed that if someone called for help, a soldier answered. That was enough. The crew knew the risks. Humanity had only recently joined the interstellar stage. Their technology was growing fast, but still basic compared to the ancient empires around them. Other species looked at humans the way one looked at ambitious children, promising but still small. Many expected humans to stay low and avoid attention. Daniel had different ideas. He believed courage and responsibility were not measured in ship size or weapon strength. They were measured by action. Even so, his officers stared at him when he gave the command. Most expected they would pass the message to a stronger ally and keep moving. But Daniel Reeves had never been the kind to pass responsibility to someone else. Hours later, the Horizon exited jump space near Valthara. What they saw on the screens made even the most hardened soldiers fall silent. Enemy ships swarmed the skies, firing beams that cracked cities, tore through orbital platforms, and burned defensive shields. The surface of the planet looked like a glowing wound. Hundreds of civilian evacuation ships struggled to escape. Some burned in orbit, others tried to flee with damaged engines. The Valtharan fleet was still fighting but was outnumbered more than 2-1. Daniel knew the situation should have been hopeless. Most commanders would turn around. Most normal people would run. Daniel simply said, "Engage." His first officer stared at him like he was insane, but she also trusted him. Orders spread through the ship. Weapons charged, shields powered, and every system screamed under maximum load. The Horizon plunged into the chaos, firing at 3 enemy ships at once. They were smaller and weaker than almost every alien vessel present, but they were fast, creative, and dangerously precise. Daniel ordered a maneuver that most pilots would call suicidal. They flew between 2 enemy cruisers, skimming their hulls by less than a ship's width. The cruisers tried to fire, but their own beams risked hitting each other. They hesitated, and in that moment, Daniel ordered his ship to unload everything. Torpedoes and laser batteries struck both ships at the same instant. The cruisers went dark and drifted in space. On the planet below, Queen Sarana Valthar watched the battle on the central defense screen. She had never seen a human warship before. Her people had heard of humanity, a young species, energetic and ambitious, but no one expected them to come here. They were not allies, not rivals, not even neighbors. She wondered how they found the courage to enter a battle like this with such a small force. The nearest human fleet was days away. No one would blame them for staying away. Yet here they were, one ship standing between civilians and death. She narrowed her eyes and leaned forward. She saw the enemy regroup and focus on the horizon. She saw the small human vessel take hit after hit, shields flickering, hull cracking, but still firing back. It was madness, brave, foolish, unbelievable madness. On board the Horizon, systems sparked as another enemy beam tore through the lower decks. Fires broke out, engineers fought to keep the shields online, and medics dragged injured crew members to the medical bay. Daniel stood firmly, face calm, voice steady. He ordered them to fly directly above the largest enemy battleship. The battleship had heavy armor on the sides and front, but almost no plating on the top where its heat vents were. No large ship would ever dare get that close, but the horizon was small enough to slip in. They flew so close that their hull nearly scraped the enemy superstructure. With a perfect shot, they fired a focused ion blast directly into the vents. Energy surged through the battleship's systems. The massive vessel went dark, powerless. The Valtharans watching from the planet could hardly believe it. But the victory came with a price. More enemy ships surrounded the horizon, firing relentlessly. The shields collapsed completely. The ship trembled. Daniel knew they could not survive another direct hit. He ordered the evacuation of as many civilians as possible. His ship was not a carrier, but they could provide cover and guide escape pods to safety. The crew worked frantically, using every functioning sensor, every bit of software, and even manual calculations when systems failed. Scores of civilian ships escaped behind the horizon, sheltered by its fading weapons. Even the Valtharan fleet, seeing the human refusal to fall back, found new strength and returned to the battle. Queen Serana felt something awaken inside her. In her culture, strength, honor, and devotion to life were not just ideals, but foundations of their royal legacy. A warrior who risked everything for others was respected. A commander who sacrificed without hesitation was admired. But what she saw went beyond that. She saw a human fighting not for conquest, not for reward, and not even for allies. He fought because someone asked for help. That kind of spirit was rare even among her own people. For centuries, their empire had grown strong, but they had forgotten the purity of simple courage. She watched the battle through her private tactical display as her reinforcements finally arrived in orbit. Warships flashed into space, hundreds of them, and the enemy fleet began to scatter. Some continued fighting, others fled. The horizon did not flee. Daniel stayed until the last civilian ship was out of danger. Then the horizon took a direct hit. The blast ripped through the engines, shattered hull plating, and sent the ship spinning toward the atmosphere. The bridge alarms wailed. Officers were thrown to the floor. Daniel held onto the railing as gravity failed and systems flickered. He could have ordered abandoned ship, but there were no escape pods left. They had given most of them to civilians. Everyone knew what that meant. Daniel gave only one order: brace for impact. From the planet's surface, Queen Serana watched the small human ship fall like a dying star. It cut through the upper clouds, flaming with debris and smoke. She stood without speaking. Her generals waited for orders, expecting her to turn away and focus on the remaining battle. Instead, she said only one command: get him out. A rescue operation launched instantly. Valtharan shuttles flew into the atmosphere, dodging debris and broken metal. Search teams found the horizon crashed in the wild forests south of the capital city. The ship was broken, battered, and smoking, but several life signs remained. Medics rushed to cut open the hull. The survivors were dragged out one by one. Burned, bloody, but alive. Finally, they reached the bridge. Daniel Reeves was pinned under a collapsed beam. Even injured and barely conscious, his first question was simple: did we save them? The medic, unable to believe the question, simply nodded. Daniel allowed himself a faint smile before passing out. The team airlifted him to the Royal Medical Center, where advanced machines kept him alive. Queen Serana visited the chamber personally. She looked down at the unconscious human who had done what no other species dared. Without any alliance, without expectation of reward, without fear. She felt something no military report could measure: respect, gratitude, and a curiosity that would soon shake two galactic powers. For the first time, she wondered not how humans survived, but what they could become. Daniel Reeves woke to soft ripples of light drifting across the ceiling. For a moment, he did not recognize the room. The walls were smooth silver metal shaped into elegant curves, and the air smelled faintly of flowers he had never known. He tried to sit up, but a gentle pressure on his chest held him down. A medical field, he realized. The bed itself was keeping him from standing too soon. His body ached everywhere, like every bone had been hit by a hammer. He touched his forehead and felt a thin medical band. Machines next to him flashed alien symbols and thin lines of data. He was alive. That was the first surprise. The second surprise entered the room without warning. Queen Serana Valthar walked in, tall and regal, wearing a flowing black and silver robe that shimmered as she moved. Her eyes were sharp and bright, not unkind, but piercing enough to read a person's soul. Daniel had seen commanders, presidents, admirals, and decorated generals in his service, but none carried the quiet authority she did. She stopped at the side of his medical bed and looked down at him with calm interest. For a moment, neither spoke. Daniel cleared his throat and gave the most practical greeting his condition allowed. "Good morning, Your Majesty." Her lips curved slightly. "Good morning, Captain Reeves. It is unusual to see a patient trying to sit up the moment he regains consciousness. My doctors would be horrified." Daniel tried again to rise, failed again, and gave up with an embarrassed sigh. "I've had worse. Part of the job." Serana studied him, not with the polite curiosity of a stranger, but with genuine interest. She had seen the entire battle from the surface. She had watched him throw everything he had into saving her people and then crash with no escape. Many surveyed the galaxy and saw power. She looked at this injured human and saw something rarer. Choice without command, responsibility without reward, courage without calculation. "You risked everything for a world that was not yours," she said. "Not even your allies would have blamed you for staying away. Why did you come?" Daniel hesitated. The simplest truth felt almost too small, but he spoke it anyway. "Because someone asked for help." That was enough. Serana nodded slowly. Humans, she realized, were much stranger than their technology suggested. Many species believed in honor, but usually with conditions, calculations, or treaties. Humanity, at least through this captain, had shown something more raw and old-fashioned. Help because someone needed it. Fight because someone was in danger. Lose because refusing to try was the greater shame. "You lost many," Serana said. Daniel's eyes dimmed. He remembered the chaos, the explosions, the screams in the halls, the bridge shaking as systems died. "Yes." "And you still believe the cost was worth it?" Daniel did not even pause. "The civilians got out. That makes it worth anything." Serana felt something shift inside her. Her empire valued strength and logic. Emotion was respected, but duty came first. She had ruled for years with complete confidence. But this human captain, battered and half-broken on a medical bed, spoke as if protecting strangers was the most natural duty in the universe. She envied that clarity. For a moment, they shared silence. Then Daniel realized something. He was not in a human hospital. He was in the Capitol Palace itself. That meant he was either extremely lucky or extremely important. He had never considered himself the latter. Serana saw his confusion and spoke first. "Half your crew survived. They are being treated in our advanced facilities. Some are already recovering faster than expected." Daniel exhaled with relief. "Thank you." "You have nothing to thank me for," she said. "They lived because you gave everything you had." In the days that followed, Daniel's recovery continued. He met Valtharan doctors who marveled at human biology. He met diplomats who were struggling to understand how a single small human ship held off an entire strike force. Soldiers and nobles walked the palace halls whispering his name. Some treated him as a curiosity. Others as a legend. Humanity had suddenly become a major presence in their political conversations. Rumors spread that if humans could create commanders with such spirit, Their species might one day surpass even ancient powers. Daniel spent most of his time in therapy sessions and medical scans, but Sarana often visited him personally. They spoke about the battle, about leadership, about the strange paths life handed them. He grew to respect her deeply. She was not a cold ruler hidden behind ceremony. She cared about her people enough to watch every casualty report herself. When she explained her cultural history, Daniel learned that bravery was not just admired in their empire. It was a foundational quality in choosing a mate for the royal line. He thought nothing of it at first, but she was studying him each time they spoke. He never noticed the shift, while her advisors noticed too late. Plans were already forming in her mind. After 2 weeks, Daniel was strong enough to walk short distances without support. He stood on a balcony overlooking the planet's capital. Tall, crystalline towers stretched toward the sky. Silver and blue energy rails glowed along the ground as public transport vehicles glided smoothly past. The forests beyond the city were green and peaceful. Hard to imagine that a war had nearly swallowed this world only days before. Sarana joined him on the balcony. She did not speak at first, simply stood beside him watching the horizon. "You saved 57,000 civilians," she finally said. "That is the official number. In truth, you saved far more than that. If our capital had fallen, panic would have spread across the empire. Many worlds would have been lost." "I only did what I could," Daniel replied. "And that is the difference," Sarana said. "Others do what they must. You did what you could. Responsibility chosen freely is stronger than responsibility forced." Daniel did not fully understand her tone until he turned and saw her expression. It was calm, but there was a hidden intensity in her eyes, the same intensity that soldiers sometimes wore when about to make a decision that changed history. Before he could ask, she spoke with the voice of a ruler addressing an entire galaxy. "Captain Daniel Reeves of Earth, in accordance with the ancient customs of Valthara, and in recognition of unmatched bravery and devotion to life, I formally offer you the honor of becoming my consort, and through marriage, co-ruler of the Valtharan Empire." Daniel froze. For a long moment he could not blink, breathe, or speak. The military translator pinned to his uniform blinked red, as if unsure if it had heard correctly. Sarana waited calmly, as though she had just offered him a cup of tea instead of a future that would shake 2 great civilizations. Inside him, chaos exploded. Soldiers were trained for battlefields, not royal proposals. He had no political training, no diplomatic schooling, and certainly no preparation for being offered a crown by an alien monarch. He tried to imagine Earth's reaction. Human leaders would either faint or start emergency meetings that lasted for weeks. The media would explode. His mother would probably scream loud enough to break windows. He had faced death with steady hands, but this was something no academy had ever prepared him for. Sarana waited, unflinching. "You need not decide immediately, but understand what I am offering. Peace between our worlds, shared strength, a future in which your actions become the foundation of a new chapter of history." Daniel looked at her and saw the weight of her words. She was not asking for a symbolic union. She was offering him partnership, responsibility, and a life at her side. A life where his actions could save more lives than 1,000 battles. He remembered the faces of the civilians they rescued. He remembered his fallen crew who died believing their sacrifice mattered. If this union created peace strong enough to prevent another war, then their sacrifice would echo far beyond the battlefield. He took a slow breath. His voice was low but steady. "If I accept, it will not be for power, not for a throne, but because life is worth defending. And I believe we can defend more lives together." Sarana smiled, not a political smile, but one filled with respect. "That is the only answer I hoped for." When the official announcement went public, the galaxy reacted instantly. Valtheron soldiers celebrated. Foreign governments panicked. Human diplomats rushed to understand how one captain had changed the political landscape of half the Orion arm. Meanwhile, Daniel stood beside Serana at a royal ceremony viewed by billions. He wore ceremonial armor shaped from Valtheron's silver steel, and Serana took his hand before the entire empire. In that moment, humanity, once small and overlooked, stood proudly at the center of history. Daniel felt no fear. He felt responsibility. A new war might come someday, new enemies, new battles, but now two powers stood side by side, forged not by treaties or forced alliances, but by honor freely chosen. And in all the galaxy, there was no force stronger than that.